Eugen Rosenstock-Huessy is one of the thinkers whose work has influenced the way I approach virtually everything. I can't really isolate a single book that sticks in my brain. Rosenstock-Huessy has a way of getting into your brain and occupying it. He wrote The Christian Future. He wrote several books on language. He wrote a book called I Am an Impure Thinker, which is a set of essays. He wrote a massive book on the history of Western man, an autobiography of the Western man, as he called it, called Out of Revolution, as he traces the revolutionary moments that formed Western civilization. Rosenstock-Huessy was born in Germany. He was born into a Jewish family. He converted, I think, in his teens and became a Christian and studied and taught in Germany. He was a historian of law. That was, I think, his advanced training was in the history of law, but he was a polymath. He had read and understood and thought about everything, and was profoundly Christian in his outlook on everything. When he came to the United States, he came to the United States in the early 30s. As soon as Hitler got elected as Chancellor of Germany, Rosenstock-Huessy knew what was on the writing was on the wall, and he needed to get out of Germany. He would be under threat. And so he moved to the United States, initially got a job at Harvard, and they couldn't quite figure out where to put him because he had such a broad range of expertise. So they stuck him in the divinity school because he kept talking about God, so that seemed to be where he fit. He didn't fit anywhere else in the university. That didn't really fit because he wasn't a theologian, and he never tried to describe himself as a theologian. So he left Harvard after a couple of years and then went to Dartmouth and spent the remainder of his life at Dartmouth teaching on a variety of subjects. His legacy has been maintained by former students, family members. There's a Rosenstock-Huessy Trust. You can get on the web and find audio lectures from his time at Dartmouth. He's a very entertaining lecturer, rambling and all over the place, but also very, very antagonistic and severe and nasty toward his students. He's constantly berating them for being stupid and not understanding anything about the world. And it's very entertaining and very enlightening. But there's a lot of material on the web about Rosenstock-Huessy. His books are still in print, but he's never been a major figure. In some ways, I think he's poised to make a comeback, but he really hasn't risen to become a major thinker in the contemporary world. Like Robert Jensen, whom I talked about in the last video, one of the reasons for reading Rosenstock-Huessy is to just get a taste for his prose and the pithiness of his prose. Again, I'll read a few quotations from his various books. We ourselves never ignite the light of reason, he says. It is kindled in us. Without speech, man would have no time, but merely be immersed in time. Animals are time's toys. Men conquered time when they began to speak. God's mind is just as much a metaphor as his elbow. Our mind is not nearer to God than our body. What we know of ourselves is what is dead in us. And I think from some of those quotations, you can already get some of the flavor of Rosenstock-Huessy's outlook. His book, I Am an Impure Thinker, means just that. He's not trying to construct a pure systematic system. He's not trying to come up with a philosophy where everything is covered, everything is neatly tied off, where everything is, all the edges are smoothed out. He recognizes that the world is not like that, and life is not like that. The only way you can come to systematic understanding of anything is if it's already stopped moving. You can only make assertions about things and indicative statements about things that have happened already, and that things that are dead. Science, he says, is very good at analyzing dead things, dissecting animals. That's what you do in science class. Studying living things is much more complicated because living things are full of surprise and unpredictable. Living human beings are unpredictable. And that's largely, he says, because we have the capacity for speech. Things that can't speak, we can predict, sort of predict their behavior. Dead things, we can predict what they're going to do, and we can pull them apart. Dead concepts, we can pull apart. Living concept, living speech, living beings, we can't fit into any kind of system. And so there's a deliberate anti-systematic thrust to Rosenstock-Huessy's view. The quotations also indicate there's a dramatic anti-Gnostic view. The statement about God's mind is not less metaphorical than saying God's hand. Both of them are metaphors. Both of them are analogies. There's an analogy between God's mind and human minds, just as there's an analogy and a disanalogy between God's hand and our hand. Rosenstock-Huessy insists on the centrality of the body. We know through our bodies. We interact with the world through our bodies. We're not brains encased within our bodies, but we interact with the world and with one another, and that's the way we come to knowledge. So there's, in some of the same ways that George Lindbeck's Nature of Doctrine, or a book that I haven't mentioned, Fergus Kerr's Theology after Wittgenstein, both of those are anti-Gnostic, not deliberately anti-Gnostic, but they have anti-Gnostic consequences, and place the emphasis on the body and language and interaction with the world, physical embodied interaction with the world, and physical embodied interaction with other people. And when you take that into the realm of theology, which is where I work, then that gives a strong caution against too neat an attempt at systematizing, and also gives a strong caution against any effort to displace or marginalize the body in theology, and marginalize language, and marginalize the world and the church and actual history. Those things are part of the material theology that we have to wrestle with. And Rosenstock-Huessy is one of the writers who's helped me recognize that.